Okay, so trig ratios, we're going to find side lengths. So there's going to be a side missing that we have to solve for. All of these triangles are right triangles. Did Mr. Garza mention that yesterday? Yeah? Okay, so everything has to be a right triangle or we can't use our trig ratios. And eventually, well, when we get back from break, we're going to be doing a project where we go out and measure like the height of the J building and the height of the B building and the library without using a ladder and using trig. Okay, it's my favorite. You guys are going to love it. Yes. Okay. Acronym. I'm going to write it right at the top just because I want to have it on my paper. So SOHCAHTOA. If you remember SOHCAHTOA, you can set up every single problem because it tells you how to do it, right? Sine, cosine, tangent, and it tells you what side you need. So we are going, so using trig, ratios to find each length. And we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. Just make sure on all your problems you are reading the directions so you know how to round. It might not always be the nearest hundredth. It could be the nearest tenth. But we've done a lot of rounding this semester, so you should be good at it by now, right? Okay. So we are going to solve for AB, and here is my triangle. So we have my right triangle. I'm giving you some information, and we're going to set up a trig ratio to solve. Okay. So first of all, we're solving for AB. So that's this side down here, right? So I'm going to call that X. Everyone okay with that? Okay. Which angle do you think my reference angle is going to be? Which angle am I going to use to label on my sides, would you guess? If you had to look at that triangle, which angle would I potentially use to label all my sides? Okay, my second question is, what angle do you know? You know angle A is 41 degrees, okay? So angle A is going to be my reference angle. So we're going to use the angle that we know as our reference angle. Could I figure out what angle C was? Yeah, right? Because 180, if I add them all up, it equals 180. So 180 minus 90 is 90 minus 41 gives me 49. So if I wanted to solve that, I could, and I could use angle C as my reference angle. But use the information that you have. Don't find it if you don't need to. Okay, so if we use angle A as our reference angle, let's label all of the sides. What side is CB going to be? Opposite. So when I say label, I'm talking about opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So CB is my opposite side. Where's my hypotenuse? AC, which leaves AB as the adjacent. Everyone with me? Okay. Now, we need to know what X is, so I'm obviously going to use that side when I set up my, my equation. What other side do I know information about? CB, the opposite side, right? So I'm using the opposite side and the adjacent side. Which one of our trig functions, sine, cosine, or tangent, uses the opposite side and the adjacent side? Tangent. Everyone see that? Okay, so the tangent of our angle, which is kind of what we wrote yesterday, but it just said A, B, or C, right? Or whatever letter it was. So the tangent of our angle equals, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 6.1 and the adjacent is x. And before we solve, I'm going to just stop here. So we figure out if we're using sine, cosine, or tangent, so you're not going to be told. You're going to use your reference angle, and then based off sine, cosine, tangent, you have to set up a ratio. Everyone with me? Anyone like, I have no idea what you just did? We're okay? Okay. Now, before we solve anything, does this look familiar at all to you? Maybe? Any guesses on how we might solve this? Okay, so let me add something. What if I heard it. Who said it? Layla? What if I added that 1 underneath? What does this look like now? A proportion. And how do we solve proportions? We cross multiply, right? Okay, so we're going to multiply across. So 1 times 6.1 is 6.1. X times the tangent of 41 is literally x times the tangent of 41. Okay, so we have 6.1 equals x tangent of 41. Everyone okay up to that point? So we had a proportion, we cross multiplied. Now our goal is to solve for x, just like with any other equation. Agreed? So what do I need to get rid of to solve for x? What do I need to get rid of to have x by itself? No, I want to leave the variable x by it. I want to leave the variable there. So what do I need to move? I need to get rid of the tangent of 41. What operation am I currently performing? Multiplication. So opposite of multiplication. Division. I'm going to divide both sides by the tangent of 41. So they're going to cancel on the one side. And I'm left with x equals 6.1 over the tangent of 41. If you don't have a calculator, that is as far as you are going to be able to go. I can give you a trig table, but they're not as fun to deal with because it gives you decimals, and then you're going to have to multiply and divide decimals. Here, we are literally plugging this into our calculator. So, in your calculator, 6.1 divided by the tangent of 41. Did you get 7.02 if you round?
Yes.
So x equals 7.02. How do we feel about that? Good? Okay. All right, let's look at number 2. We're going to spend today and Monday on this, so if you're a little lost, we're going to have time, okay? MP is what we're going to solve for. So I'm solving for MP, so that's going to be what I'm going to call X. What is my reference angle? N, so 20 degrees. So let's label based off angle N. What is PM going to be? Opposite. What about PN? Hypotenuse, because it's always across from the 90-degree angle. And then my adjacent is going to be right next to it. So if I were you, I would always label the adjacent one last, because that's the one people get the most confused. So hypotenuse should be straightforward because of the right angle, opposite of the angle, and then labeling the adjacent last. Okay, which two sides am I going to use to set up my proportion? The opposite, because it has the variable, and the hypotenuse because I know information. Agreed? Okay, so which trig function, sine, cosine, or tangent, uses the opposite and the hypotenuse? Sine. We're good at that. Okay, so the sine of 20, so the sine of your angle, equals, sine is which, how do I put this sides? Opposite over hypotenuse. So x over 8.7. Now before we solve, do you see a difference between this problem and the one above? Yeah. What's the difference? X is on the top on this one. It was on the bottom on the last one, right? Okay, so we still are going to cross multiply. So if you want to put this over 1, that's fine. We're still going to cross multiply. But look what happens. 1 times x is x, right? 8.7 times the sine of 20 is 8.7 times the sine of 20. We're going to put 8.7 out front. Is x by itself? Mm-hmm. So all we need to do is plug it into our calculator. So in your calculator, 8.7 out front, so 8.7 times the sine, and you can just click sine, so 8.7 sine of 20.
2.98.
2.98. Did you all get 2.98?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I want everyone to put their pencils down, and I want you to look at the screen because I want to give you kind of like a trick. When the variable, so everyone's eyeballs are on the screen. When the variable is on top, all you're going to do is multiply. Okay, so variable's on top, you end up multiplying. That one's pretty straightforward, right? So when the variable's on top, we're going to multiply. You can write this in a second. When the variable's on the bottom, so let's just use like normal non-math terms. What happened? Do you see really what happened with the first problem? What changed? Or what changed places?
The order of x.
The x changed with what? The position of what?
The fraction.
Specifically, what did x flip with?
Number.
Specifically, what did x flip with? So look at where x is.
The opposite?
Okay, hold on. Look at where x is right now. And look where it ended. What changed places? X and what?
6.
The tangent of 40. Of the tangent of 41. So x came here. Tangent of 41 went to the bottom. Does everyone see that? So instead of solving it like this every time, you are going to flip and divide. So if x is in the denominator, you flip and then divide. Or you can do all the work. You do you. I'm just trying to help you out. Some of you are like, I have no idea what you just said. We'll do another problem. So I want you to write flip and divide. This is when x is in the denominator. And then we are going to multiply when x is in the numerator. And it doesn't have to be an X. It could be a K. It could be an L. Like whatever letter you use is fine. But your variable, when it's in the denominator, you flip and divide. When it's in the numerator, you're going to multiply. Okay. Let's do another problem. I think we'll just spend all the time doing problems today instead of doing homework. Unless you want homework this weekend.
No.
No homework this weekend.
Okay. So let's try another one. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to have you try one, okay? Okay. Give you a second to finish drawing. Okay, so YZ is what I'm going to call X, right? Because that's what I'm solving for. If you want to use a different letter, since there's an X as part of the triangle, you can if that's confusing. And let's label. Where's my reference angle? Z, so 38. So across from 38 is which side? Which is what, if I label it? Opposite. We're labeling. Always label. What's across from the 90-degree angle? The hypotenuse. And next to it is adjacent. What two sides am I going to use to set up my equation? Adjacent, because I have information. And the hypotenuse, because that's what I need to know. So sine, cosine, or tangent, which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine, okay? So the cosine of 38, which is my angle, equals the adjacent, which is 12.6, over my hypotenuse. Okay, so watch what happens. We're going to use that little trick I just showed you. Where's my variable located? In the denominator. So the trick says to flip and divide. So watch what I flip. Ready? X equals 12.6 over the cosine of 38. I just flip those two things and divide. Everyone see what flipped? If you want to do the dividing part and like do all the work, you do you. But you're eventually going to get to this. So flip and divide. So in your calculators, 12.6 divided by the cosine of 38. And you get what? Rounded to the nearest hundredth. 15.99. Did everyone get 15.99? No? Did I hear a no? Okay, you ready to try one? You and your buddies at your group? All right, there you go. See if you can solve for BC. I am solving for BC. So here's my X. What's my reference angle? Angle C. So let's label. Across from angle C is the opposite. Across from the 90 degrees is hypotenuse. Next to C is the adjacent. Which sides am I going to use? Which two sides am I going to use? The adjacent, because that's what I'm solving for, and the opposite because I know something about it. Adjacent and opposite uses which trig function? Tangent. So the tangent of my reference angle, which is 35, equals, tangent is what? Opposite over adjacent, so 9.8 over x. What kind of problem is this? A flip and divide. Okay, so I'm going to, there you go, flip and divide. So x equals 9.8 over the tangent of 35. When you plug that into your calculator, what do you get?
9.8. 10, 35, boop. 6.87.
Let's try again.
Uh-oh.
What'd y'all get? 14. Technically 14.00.